Hello, everybody. City Talk Fall River. I think I did my job and shared it to every entity of Facebook that I'm a part of. So hopefully we'll get some listeners today. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, I have a new phone, but unfortunately, I don't have the wire that connects my phone.
Oh, you made the leap.
Yes, I have an iPhone.
You made the leap.
It's the new iPhone.
Awesome.
It's the new iPhone, and I love it to death. It's 10,000 times better than any phone I've ever had in my life.
I told you.
But unfortunately for that, I don't have the connecting wire right now that connects my phone to the computer. So, and I use my phone line as the call in for the podcast. So, very unfortunate that I will not be able to take in phone calls today. However, we can still press on. We have Nikki here and Trot. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Trot.
Derek right now is, if anyone's been listening and keeping up with us, Derek sometimes doesn't make it to the show because he facilitates a pool tournament and sometimes participates in pool tournaments. As a matter of fact, I saw him, I believe it was Tuesday night at Mickey Doyle's. A friend of mine, I haven't been to Mickey Doyle's in quite some time, and a friend of mine asked me to come out and hang out. So I went over there and I saw Derek playing pool. Mm-hmm. And I didn't stick around too long to watch him play pool because I was hanging out with my buddy. But later on, I come to find out he beat some guy like 5 games in a row.
Awesome.
For his tournament. And
go, Derek.
I haven't seen him shoot one game of pool yet, so it's a mystery to me how awesome he is.
And would you play him? You're competitive.
Well, when it comes to pool, when it comes to pool, just like chess, I like to play people that are better than me. I don't want to play people that I can beat. I like to play people that are better than me.
But do you know how to play pool?
I'm not nearly as good as the way that it's described to me that Derek is. I'm good, but I'm not great.
Oh, I'm not even good.
No.
But I'll play anybody. I don't care if I want to.
My grandfather used to be, he's older now. He's not as strong as he used to be, but he was like ESPN level good. Like he won tournaments left and right. But and he used to play me all the time and teach me, and he'd make me think I was gonna win. And no, he would just rip my entire heart out, little 12-year-old boy trying to play pool against his grandfather. But
but it taught you how to play, didn't it?
Oh, I'm a strong proponent of don't let him win. I'm a strong proponent to don't let him win. If you got him, take him. Because that's the only way they're going to get better is by figuring out how to win and how to get on top. So that's the reason why I think I've always grown up liking to play people better than me. But so Derek's not with us today. I know we're having some little bit of fun right now at the moment, but it's been a tough week. Mm-hmm. It's been a tough weekend. And actually, when you really think about it, it's been a really tough 6 months when you think about all the deaths that have occurred.
Yeah.
And not just the celebrities. I mean, Muhammad Ali, one of the biggest names of all time in human history, he was just symbolic to so many different people in so many different ways. He passed away yesterday, 74 years old, and he fought at least 30 years or so, or 20 years of his life with the Parkinson's disease as well. So it limited his speech, his movement, everything. So, but. And it's just, about a month ago, we had Mike Mayoza on the show. Severe tragedy. It's not even, I don't even know how to go about this at all. It's basically
to bring it up, it's more in the way of I wanted to discuss what happened last night as a way we had a female senior student at
Durfee?
BMC Durfee High School, yes, who last night on the way to her senior prom got into a car accident and passed away. The reason that I wanted to discuss it is basically to give my condolences, not only to her family,
right,
but her friends as well. I can imagine that their hearts are broken, all of them. And that's.
I've been using words like I've been using words like incomprehensible and unfathomable. And there's no word that's going to capture what people are going through. There's not a single word that's going to capture what people are going through. And really, what can you say to someone who's going through this kind of level of pain? You just can't do it.
There's nothing you can say.
So your heart's out to them. I put a post up there, social media, hearts out to whoever's being affected by this, not just family, friends, people who are reading about it and feeling bad. Mm-hmm. Everybody that's affected by this is just my heart goes out to you, but what can you do? It's just a horrible situation. And as a matter of fact, I just heard, I talked to a friend for about 2 hours on the phone yesterday morning, because there was a young man who in his 20s who, again, overdosed and died as well. And it affected a lot of people. Then there was a car accident that someone else, I'm just go through my wall on Facebook,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
my grandmother's passed away. My friend's died. He's gone too young. Like we're seeing, it feels like I'm seeing it now in 2016 more than I ever have in any other year.
You know, it's one thing with social media,
Yeah.
though, too. Like when you had said for people who are just even reading the stories,
Right.
you know, it's a different
It affects
level that it's where it's going to affect you. But when you're reading so many things like that on social media, if you have empathy, which most of us do,
Right.
you can't help but feel for the families of those
Absolutely.
involved in these tragedies.
Yep.
You know, like, and I, as I mentioned to you when I came in, I was very upset last night because there was so much news coverage of
Yes.
the car accident.
Yep.
And, you know, car accidents always make the news and all that. But I think
a child dying, of
right,
course, is going to be in the news as
it
well.
was prom night.
Right.
So I think all of that.
Of course.
But I'd read one article on the Boston Globe. It was the Boston Globe. And in that article, it stated that a reporter showed up last night at Durfee High School after the prom let out of the restaurant. They go to Durfee for the after prom party.
Yeah.
A reporter showed up
That's
at the
crazy.
school now, and that infuriated me as a mom, as a parent, as a resident of Fall River, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
That infuriated me.
Yeah.
How dare anybody be that insensitive? These kids are friends.
Right.
The other students who were celebrating at the prom.
Oh, I wanna throw something in there too that you and I think a couple other of us talked about in our own conversation. This happened before the prom.
Yeah.
So what's in the kids' heads at the prom?
Right.
Like it had to have just been horrible.
How when they're on their way to celebrate, and that's the part of it that I think is so heartbreaking. They're on their way to celebrate this momentous life, and any of us who went to our prom and graduated, you know, the end of your senior year when you first let out of school, right before you graduate, it's such a great time in your life. So I couldn't imagine being ready to celebrate that time and then having to hear that a classmate or a friend passed away while on their way to that celebration. Right. You know, and I heard some people say, you know, I can't believe they told the kids at the prom. We're in the age of social media, guys. It's 2 seconds. They're going to post their prom pictures, even if no one had said anything to them. Right. It was already posted on social media. The news outlets were picking it up. Yep. So I applaud whoever took the time to speak to the students about it the right way. You know, I can't imagine that was very easy, and they could not have been prepared for that. Yep. You know, we've got great counselors who work in our schools who on many occasions have gone into our schools when we've had a student death. Right. And
even with the layoffs that have occurred, they still have counselors.
Yeah, this is where there is no, you know, that's where you can see the caring of the people who do work for the city. Right. There's no boundary. It's not, no paycheck was going to stop them last night from going and doing what they needed to do. Right. And then going back to the reporter that showed up at Durfee at the for the after prom, they were asked by a school employee to leave. They were told to leave by a school employee. And I just want to give that employee, you know, credit to say kudos to you, because we have a lot of people who wouldn't think twice about talking to the media, regardless of the situation. Right. So I think for that school employee, I thank you and I applaud you for keeping that away from our students.
There are a lot of people that have expressed themselves publicly, especially now with Donald Trump out there just saying whatever he feels at any moment in time, which is fine. He has that right to do that. But and everyone does have a right to do that. But I believe that it's been expressed many times over that this generation's soft, this generation's weak, right? This generation's sensitive, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I think there's a time and an appropriate place to actually be protective of children and their emotions sometimes.
Of humans, I think.
Of being courteous to somebody that they're going through a mourning phase. Being
respectful.
Right. Of going through a mourning phase, of trying to process this at that time. And to have a reporter going out there, like, I'm glad the teacher stepped up and did
me
his
too.
thing or her thing, whoever it was that stepped up and said, you need to go the other direction real quick with this. I know you have a job to do, but so do I.
Yeah, like what
You know
reporter?
what I mean?
Like even if I were a reporter, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like what reporter in their right mind is okay with that?
Right.
The whole entire situation, these kids, these students, these young adults literally just had a very tragic thing happen
Right.
to them at a time that's supposed to be such a wonderful occasion.
Right.
You know, to me, that's a how dare you moment. How dare you
It's messed up.
take it upon yourself? You know, you could have made phone calls to talk to the superintendent and whoever else. You didn't have to show up on school premises when you knew there was going to be an after prom party.
Yeah.
Durfee's had their after prom parties for years and years and years. So it was no surprise. That
Right.
reporter knew what they were doing, and they should be ashamed that they took that opportunity. The kids should have been grieving. That wasn't a
Right.
time for them to talk to the media at all.
It's an unfortunate situation,
Yeah.
man. Like really, really unfortunate. And so we talked about the children and this and that, but obviously because he's been a friend to our show and we've had him on many times, to Mike Mayoza, our hearts go out to you. Obviously, if there's
Personally,
anything that, you know, we can do for you, if you ever had, you know, whatever it is that out there,
If
that
you just need a hug, man.
right, anything at all, you know, we're there for you as friends. We're there for you in any capacity, way, shape, or form. So that's that. I don't know. I don't want to go to
I hear you.
dwell on it too much because I feel as though we'll cross lines of doing it too much. You know what I mean? And I don't
I'll
want to
just
do
get
that.
emotional, and
Yeah.
I think that was. I
Yeah.
just wanted to give my condolences and
Yeah.
discuss the media business.
You're not supposed to bury your kids or your grandkids, man. It's never meant to happen. You know, it's never meant to happen. So that's not the way the world's supposed to go. Staying on this topic a little bit though, Jason Burns came out publicly on WSAR. Jason Burns, another friend to the show, another person who's called in many times, contacted us on a lot of things going on with the fire department. He's the head of the fire union. I don't have the exact numbers on me. And unfortunately, because we can't take phone calls today, I can't really reach out to Jay and ask him for those numbers. But maybe next week if we get our phone situation set up. But Jason Burns came out and put out the figures that there have been a lot of deaths, a lot of overdose deaths.
Yep.
Even with the Narcan being administered out there right now, he just said that we have record numbers of overdoses and overdosing deaths right now going on, and we're not even halfway through the year. We just started June, so this has just been 2006 has had a lot of ups, but seriously a lot of downs. And
2016.
I'm sorry, 2016. It's had a lot of downs, and it's hard. It makes you hopefully realize that we are not anybody trying to sell this story of our city right now in a different light than what it is.
Right.
Like we have to take the positive and the negative and try to solve some of these problems. And now we're not going to solve there is no solution that a government or group thinking is going to do to really solve the drug issue. It's an individual thing that we maybe can do to not enable.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think government can do. That's what I think people as groups can do, is contribute to the non-enabling aspect of this. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think.
All right. Well, I had a conversation about it last night with someone, and it just if I'm off on my thinking, and I have talked about it on this show before, we have to figure out if what the government has done in the quote war on drugs, has it helped or has it enabled?
It obviously hasn't helped.
Right, because it's gotten worse,
has
right?
The war on drugs gone on.
There you go. So when we start to pinpoint some of the things that people may engage in drugs for, it's different to every individual. Mm-hmm. If I'm a drug addict and you're a drug addict, Nikki, it's very likely we didn't do it at the same time. We didn't do it for the same reasons, and we might not even get hooked on the same thing. Right? So so one person can't come in a room and help us both on a topic that we both are very unique on. Mm-hmm. You know, on a subject, the only thing we share is that we have an addiction. That's the only thing we do share, but we don't share the intricacies of why that is. Do you know what I mean? So what can the government do? In my opinion, one of the major issues, and remember that HBO thing that we saw, that HBO document that we saw documentary that we saw about all the drug addicts that got hooked on heroin,
The Cape Cod
thing, but they first started with pills.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, now they're starting to figure out that about 80 to maybe even 90% of your needle heroin addicted drug addicts start off with pills, start off with maybe a car accident, or I hurt my back at
back
work.
injuries.
And then the next thing you know, they got these pills. Next thing you know, they're hooked on these pills, and then you're done. So I'm thinking out loud here, and just tell me if I'm off on this. But do you think it would help disable the situation, not enable the situation, if, let's say, you had a back problem and you needed, a strong pain-killing drug? Wouldn't it be logical or maybe helpful to maybe have a nurse either come to your home to bring you your dosage that you needed on a regular basis, or have a dispensary somewhere where you could arrive there and take your medicine as you needed and not be given these 45 to 90 packs of pills a day that you can therefore leave open for anyone to get involved in?
Well, in theory, I would say yes, that would be a great idea. Is it realistic though? Well, I think there are different forms though. Like you take somebody who was maybe in a car accident and they need the medicine, but they can walk or what have you. I think like my mom, when she passed from cancer, she toward the end was very addicted to the pain. I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head right now. Percocet. Yeah. And she would take them all before the script was up, and she would call the doctor, and she would be, literally bawling her eyes out to get the prescription filled in, and he wouldn't fill it. Right. But at that time he knew just from that. So where my mother could have benefited from that. And she had a visiting nurse, so that could have been something that would have been very feasible. Right. But I'm not sure that would be for every individual. For every individual. Well, just like we were saying before, we all have different backgrounds. But like I said, but in a situation with my mom, and my mom was on the pain med for so long, chemo, radiation, it probably would have worked for her pain. It would have been, because she wouldn't have been the one taking it. And not for nothing, but the cancer was affecting her brain, so she wasn't even thinking normally. Right. So that's one of the things that I brought up last night to my friend, and this is something I actually dug in Facebook and looked for one of my posts and found that I did throw this out there as a brainstorming opportunity. I don't believe that the drug problem has a grand solution from the government, or I don't think that there's a grand solution from the government that's going to come from this. I think solutions are individualized and they come from each other. But again, we can do things not to enable the situation. That's what I truthfully believe in my heart about the drug situation. So if we were able to control the dissemination of the pill issue, period. I'm not talking about cocaine. I'm not talking about other forms of drugs, just the pill situation alone. I think that at least the government is doing their part. If they did something like this, or not even the government, just whatever entity is out there, whether it's the pharmaceutical companies who want to try to help the communities out, or whatever it is. Like you're talking government, pharmaceutical companies, right? And I'm like, oh, it's just one evil entity after another. That's what it seems like it is, right? And it is. And you said the word control. Right. We can control the dissemination of it. Right. And then as you're talking, it's like it all sounds so great. Right. But in my head, as you're talking, I'm saying, and why are drugs illegal in the first place? Right. And why like what I know personally for me, because of the money, why I would want to stop a family member who is maybe addicted. Right. But when you look at addiction as a whole, there are people who don't want to not be addicted. They don't want to be clean, and they don't want that. They're perfectly happy. Right. So to me, if they're perfectly happy, they should just be perfecly in there. Right. I don't think they should be thrown in jail, and then that's where. No, I wouldn't do a jail thing. No, right. But then it all kind of all boils into one. There's different. You have the people who do get hooked on pills, and they're one, and then you got the others who even if they did start into an accident and they know that they're addicted at this point, they're still taking that move. It's just a whole bunch of. If a person wants to get high, they're gonna get high. Right. It's gonna happen. Unfortunately, it is. There's unless you physically like
just hold a person down
Right.
and stop them. They're going to figure out a way to get whatever they want into their system. My only advocacy here is to not enable it. I think that the system that we have in place right now, whether you call it a government system or not, the system that's in place right now enables. It enables the opportunity for somebody to take these pills and put them in the streets. It enables the opportunity for a person to get hooked on the drugs and then want something stronger down the road. You know what I mean? Prime example. So right now, I believe that the system, no matter what they want to say, war on drugs, just say no, McGruff the crime dog, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to say and do, this is your brain on drugs, right? Remember all that? We live in a system and in a society that enables drug addicts. We do. It's very unfortunate, but we do. So I would say that as one thing to maybe stop enabling is to, if somebody gets a prescription for a pain med, especially an opioid level pain med, then they have it, they find a way to have it given to them either through a nurse or through a dispensary or something to that nature. So that way they're not taking these medications.
It's never going to happen.
Oh, I know.
Pharmaceutical companies make money off of.
My argument is not that it'll happen. I'm just throwing it out there that as a brainstorm idea, that's all I'm doing, right? So you throw that out there. The other thing, which we are very close to, is to not criminalize anybody for doing marijuana.
Right.
I really feel as though that I personally do not smoke marijuana. I don't have any urge to. I will. That thing could be right in front of me, 100% legal, and I still wouldn't smoke weed. Like, it's not my thing. That's just simply not my thing. I have a few drinks and I'm done. That's it. That's all that's really all I have. That's my only vice, right? So whereas with marijuana, we're talking about like millions of people smoke marijuana in the world.
Yep, always have.
Right. And it's been like that since before government in America even started. Marijuana has been shared by cultures all over the world. So to me, this is not...
And as it's been given all over the world as a medicine.
Right. I was going to say, statistically, when you compare it to drugs and alcohol or tobacco and alcohol, when you compare marijuana to it, statistically, there's no comparison. It's not, you can't overdose on it, or I don't think, I mean, as much as people have tried, you can't overdose on it. It hasn't been responsible for deaths or anything to that nature. And if it has, comparing it to what legal drugs, right, tobacco,
exactly.
and you know what I mean, like all that stuff, then there's no strong argument to marijuana. And even people with the gateway drugs, right? The real true gateway drug are the pills, in my opinion. That's what really gets people to the strong stuff. You know what I mean? Now, marijuana in the 80s might have brought you to cocaine in the 80s. There was a culture of, that going on. But now with heroin as the top dog drug that can just ruin your entire existence, people are getting to that level through the pills. Yeah,
well, that's an obvious move. I don't think like even when I was a kid and they said it was a gateway drug, I was always so afraid. And I was that one kid, like, you're going to hell. So to see it now, like, and that's how I compare it. I was the kid in the 80s when Nancy Reagan did the whole, don't do drugs. So they really drilled that into my head. I knew, even when I was in Henry Lord, they had a contest, make a poster. You could win. And so to compare it back then to now, and the problems are so much worse now. Or they seem, I won't say they are because I don't have any data in front of me, but I can say for me, in my eyes, I see it a lot worse. Now I see more people dying. Right.
And that's what we're literally seeing that now. That's,
and the pharmaceutical companies are making a fortune off of the meds that they are selling.
I believe it's like almost a $20 billion industry right now.
I have mentioned even I had surgery for my kidney when I was in the hospital, and they made me take morphine. And I was saying I didn't want it, but it was like being pressured into taking it. Oh, sweetie, you're going to be in so much pain. We're going to make you walk. You have to take it. You should take it. You should take it. So of course I did, because I was afraid, but I was all done after that.
You've talked about it on the show. Otherwise I wouldn't have brought it up, but you've talked about your kidney stone issue. You have really bad kidney stone issue, and you just go through it and you don't take anything for it.
I won't take any pills for it.
So is that
I've seen way too many people get hooked. I'm not even gonna try it. I have no, if it was that bad that I felt that I needed it, then I would obviously take it. But I don't.
Right.
You could look at my records. It'll always say I refuse.
Mm-hmm.
That's the work. That's the one thing that annoys me is if I go to the doctor for a pain or I have something wrong and they just automatically want to give me a
Right.
prescription. I'm thinking,
Right.
what the hell is wrong with you?
Right.
Can we find out what's
Right.
wrong with me and why I'm in pain
Right.
in the first place instead of just trying to fix the pain?
Right. Right.
Or
Wait,
cover
do
it
you
up?
feel as though the pharmaceutical companies have a vested interest in keeping people into addict? Like,
Of course.
so, all right. That I wasn't 100% sure of that
Of
position.
course I do. Absolutely.
No, I wasn't 100% sure. So because you said to me it wouldn't happen about, having a dispensary or having people
But
deliver.
that's why it won't happen because
But you're saying because they have a vested interest in
Yes.
keeping people addicted on the
of course
streets.
look how easy it is to get it.
Not an argument
Look
out of
how
me.
easy it is to get it. It
Not an argument
floors
on
me
me.
if you right now, even back or in my younger days, if somebody wanted a med, you literally had to go through all kinds of hoops
Right.
to get a med. You had to show your ID. You were the only one who could pick it up. We went
Right.
through a lot of that with my mom when my mom was sick.
Right.
So to see how many people I know, I went to the pain clinic. What the hell is a pain clinic?
Yeah.
It used to be called physical therapy.
Right.
Now it's a pain clinic.
Yeah.
So I look at
Horrible,
it like that. And,
horrible,
and the
horrible.
people who are saying, I'm going to the pain clinic are 21, 22,
Yes.
23 years old.
Yes.
What in God's name? Why would any doctor, right? If you're a doctor,
Yeah.
you're trying to make people better. Why is that your
Nikki.
first?
Nikki, can we
Move,
peel
so-
can we peel the layer back a little bit more? And I'll go into a little bit of my realm where in my profession, we have the medical industry very quick and ready to give a pill to a 5-year-old, to a 4-year-old,
What did
just
they
just
approve
because they're a little
OxyContin for
hyper.
kids?
Huh?
I said how long ago did they approve OxyContin for kids?
Right. Well, the OxyContin for kids is only in a very specific situation, but I still didn't like it either.
Yeah.
Right. But we're in a situation where now we're having a child learn to become dependent on a pill
Right.
to modify something
Yeah.
that could possibly be modified without taking a pill. We're not even giving this child a chance. I've had conversations with parents that said, my kid was hyper at 4 or 5 years old, and my doctor wanted to give him this, that, and the third, and I said no. And now they're 7, 8-year-olds, and they're fine.
Yeah.
Or they're hyper, but we know how to work with them. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's what I want to see. I want to see more parents stepping up and saying, being a little bit more critical in their thinking. Maybe there are situations where a child needs to take a medication. I'm never going to say that 100% of the time a child
It's
doesn't
not
need
necessary.
it. Right.
I agree.
Necessary. But I do believe, even though it's a sad day, I still got time to throw my
Of course.
hashtag necessary out there for Mike D'Oliveira, Necessary Media. But as these children, as these parents, I want to see a little more critical thinking, not paranoia, because there's a line, right?
Mhm.
But just some critical thinking and saying, you know what, let's give this a chance. Let's give it a chance without the pills and see what we can do. Let's try this method first before we start giving the kid some pills. Because I really do think that should be the very last resort in a lot of cases. Because once that child starts to think that it needs a pill to solve its problem at a young age, what happens at 17, 18, you know?
That child is trained to take that pill
Yeah.
however long or whatever. You're training your child that they need. And what do we say when we give meds to our kids? You need to take your medicine.
Yeah.
You need to take it. You need
Dependency.
to take it.
Right.
You need to take it.
Yeah.
I think, and we're kind of rolling into another subject that I wanted to talk about today, which is
This is how we roll.
the whole behavior in schools business.
Yep.
Now, when we're talking about how they're so quick to give a 5-year-old a med,
Yep.
and then I see a bunch of teachers whose the majority of their complaints about the schools
Mhm.
is that the kids have horrible behavior in the classroom.
Right.
And I'm not sure if it has anything to do with one another, if the two topics are intertwined.
Mhm.
But they also talk about the amount of IEPs and high needs.
Right.
So I know that high needs is an umbrella term for a lot of students,
Yep.
but I would like to know what percentage of students have that.
There's a boundary issue going on that I've noticed too, between teachers and parents and children when it comes to the medication situation. Fortunately for me, I've been able to talk to my supervisor about not taking as many Fall River cases. Ever since I've tried to get involved in running for city council, I've purposely tried to make sure that my cases are outside the city, so that if I ever did get on, there wouldn't be a conflict of interest in
Right.
in any cases. But so I haven't seen this with my Fall River families currently, but I've seen it in other parts that I've been working in. Teachers are telling parents, "Oh, I think your child needs," and we'll say the drug
Wow.
needs Ritalin, needs Focalin, needs Adderall, needs like, and I'm not talking about one family or one school. I'm talking about I work around different parts of Massachusetts. On more than several occasions have I heard a parent say, "Oh, you know what? So and so's teacher said he might be good on this." That teacher should be fired on the spot.
That's definitely a line stepper.
Yes. Yes. Like, no teacher should be doing this.
They're not qualified.
I'm very glad I didn't hear anything about Fall River.
I mean,
I'm very glad.
They might have questions or might see something, but that's a delicate.
Yeah. Well, the least you can say, the least you can say to your parent is, he's really hyper. You know, I'm not sure what is being done to work with this hyperactivity, but we should probably, you know, maybe exploring all the options or something to that nature. Even that.
Yeah, I think
right.
I'm a parent, so I think that would be crossing a line.
But as a teacher, you can say, "Hey, he's really hyper in class. What can we do?"
Yeah,
I think a teacher can say that.
I would. Yeah.
But
I guess it depends on the relationship between the teacher, the student, and the parent.
Right. But to recommend a drug,
yeah, no.
You kidding me? Are you kidding me? No, I would have lost. I mean, when I'm hearing the story, I'm like, who's this teacher? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm glad it wasn't Fall River.
Yeah.
I'm very glad.
Yeah. Yeah. Fired on the spot, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's just that's. I don't know. See, now at first I said fired, but then at the same time, I know I've said a million times, our teachers are not therapists. Our teachers are teachers. They're there to teach and educate. They're not therapists. They're not social workers.
They are, yeah.
So that's where I think.
Know your role, basically, is what you're saying?
No, but I'm glad. Yes, but they shouldn't have to.
Right.
Be therapists and social workers. So maybe that's part of the issue in those schools. Maybe they have so many students that they're catering or not catering to, but that they're dealing with, that the teachers, in essence, short of the actual paperwork, are therapists and are social workers.
Yep. They've
been doing it for years. You can't take kids out of the classroom when they're acting up. They have to stay in the classroom, because if not, you'll get sued. When Boston areas and areas around Boston decided to gentrify and send, the struggling population to gateway cities, New Bedford, Fall River, Taunton, whoever, Brockton, right? When they decided to do that, that put a very strong concentration of children with social, emotional problems in these designated areas, which, along with that comes expenses. We're seeing it now in our school department. What did Meg Mayo Brown say about the transportation costs? 80% of them for special needs. Yes. 80% of this transportation costs. We're talking about, I believe the transportation cost was about $20 million overall. 80% of it is based on special needs. Mm-hmm. Like that makes everybody at first go, wow, that's crazy. Well, but then I say define special needs.
Exactly.
Define, and it's not even, not special needs, they call it high needs now, right? So it's define high needs. Mm-hmm. And I've asked this question.
Wait, I'm wrong. $8 million, not $20 million.
It's 8.
It was $8 million. I'm
sorry.
Little
over 8.
It was processing in my head that I said the wrong number, but
what were we saying? Because now I'm thinking.
No, you said why are they special needs, or what defines special needs?
Right. Because is it the IEPs, and then who's filling out the IEPs?
Right.
Doctors have something to do with IEPs.
They sure do. I mean, it's a legal document.
It's all rolled into one.
It's a legal document. If teachers veer off from what the IEP
they can get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, all kinds of trouble.
Which is why, again, like we've already had an issue with 2012, the ACLU. started an investigation, which actually I thought the investigation was all over. Apparently, according to the Herald News, it's still going on.
Right.
For because Fall River was suspending a higher rate of Black, Hispanic students, and then an even higher rate of special, like disabled Black and Hispanic students. Our suspension numbers were high.
Right.
Now, in that investigation, they said there was, like, they did not find any discrimination amongst the teachers or what have you. But my thing is, why did Fall River then fold and started doing all of these things to keep those kids who were getting suspended?
Who was in office around those times?
Meg Mayo Brown.
Meg Mayo Brown
was the superintendent.
Mayor
Flanagan. 2012.
All right, so school committee probably had the same.
Ray, Linda.
No, school committee, not city council.
I'm sorry.
So you probably still had Joe Martins there. I'm assuming you had Mark Costa and Gabe Andrade, maybe.
I'll be honest, I don't remember what it was in 2012.
Yeah. I'm going to assume those three were there because they've been there for so long. But outside of that, so who do the finger's gonna get pointed at somebody eventually.
But it was that fear. So that fear, you had the ACLU coming down and saying, you guys can't suspend these kids, even though we know you're not discriminating and you're suspending them because what they're doing is wrong.
Right.
But you can't do that anymore. So as a parent, I'm like, why didn't anyone from our school department stand up and say, you know something, we're going to fight you because we're doing everything right. We need to show you this is the problem.
Right.
And then you look all across the country.
Yeah.
There's problems in every school district.
Right.
Maybe this is why.
You kind of triggered something. I feel as though I may veer. We can come back.
Yeah.
But I'm not veering too far off, but I know you saw the post that I posted yesterday. It wasn't my post, actually. It was a Herald News story about Cam, who is the disabled child that's in a in a wheelchair.
Yes.
This was a Spencer Boarding, I believe, Spencer Boarding School, where this was months back.
This was the holiday concert.
Yes, there was a concert, and all the non-disabled children were on stage singing. And Cam,
the handicap accessible stage, mind you.
Right. This was a handicap accessible stage. Cam, for some reason or another, was sat at least 6 feet away from the group, off the stage,
on the floor,
facing the audience, and he was singing along.
Sure was.
But
everybody's eyes were looking on stage and not at the floor.
It was an absolute horrible situation. So
do you remember when I saw that photograph?
Yeah.
It made me so sad. I was so angry that I'm like, how could I would have rolled him right up on the stage.
Well, apparently now there's an agency out there that will be doing a thorough investigation. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan group that's going to do an investigation to see if any rights were violated, which I think is really, really, really good. So very fortunate. The mom actually, I believe her name is Sedalia. Yeah, Sedalia. She posted on it and posted, her opinions on everything and why she fought, which I think was, on her part, very, very commendable.
It is awesome why she did it, and I applaud her for that effort because it's something. She's right, and what she says is how Cam was on the floor. It should have never happened. Right. The fact that the principal in her comment or in her response said it was, it was brought to my attention midway through or whatever. Right. And like Sedalia said, if it has to be brought to your attention, that's the problem.
Yep.
It shouldn't have to be brought to your attention because you see it with your own eyes.
Sedalia posted on my wall or on my comments. I actually posted the storyline in 3 different groups of Facebook. Threw Up in Fall River, Grew Up in Fall River, and All Things Fall River. She responded to me on the Threw Up in Fall River page, of course. That's where everyone usually interacts with me personally. But I try to spread it all the way around when it's certain stories that need to be spread. But I get most interaction there. So Sedalia, who is the mom of Cam, mentioned, and then I'm paraphrasing here, that she was disappointed in Meg Mayo Brown's comments after, like, months later, because when it happened, Meg Mayo Brown was, this is unacceptable, this, that, and the other. And then now she was more like, Meg Mayo Brown's like, I can't comment on any of this. So she's like, no comment, no comment, no comment. So Sedalia expressed some disappointment as far as that goes. So, take that for what it's worth. Personally, I'm just very, very, very glad to see. I'm all about accountability of how everyone in government acts. You know what I mean? So I applaud Claudia for. I'm sorry, Sedalia. I'm so mad with names sometimes. Sedalia for stepping up instead of putting her hands up in the air and saying I can't do anything. I'm helpless. She stood up for her son. She stood up for the rights of other disabled people.
Yeah,
the person who I think of now, someone who's like in the retirement board. I'm sorry, the disabled board is Dan Robillard.
Yes.
I'd like to know his opinion on this. I've never seen him voice it. I
am surprised that I haven't heard from him either on this because, as I said,
he has an opinion on a lot of topics. If I remember
correctly, he was the first student at BMC Durfee High School to cross the stage in a wheelchair.
Right.
So for me,
it would be interesting to know where his stance comes from, because he has a stance on a lot of different topics in government. Obviously, he does more citizens inputs than I think anybody out there. It would be interesting to know where he comes from on this, because or how he supports the mom in this and things like that, because it is definitely a wild topic and something that just should have never happened.
When I first saw it, and I know I said it on the show back then, that it floored me that it even happened, because like I mentioned, Dan was the first to cross the stage in the wheelchair.
Yes.
So all these years later, 20 plus years later, how is a child left on the floor?
Right.
And the worst part is because the kids were on the risers.
Yep.
So they weren't only on the stage, they were on the stage on risers. And he was below the stage.
He was on the floor.
Yeah. With no one around him.
There wasn't even an adult standing.
They could have put the risers on the floor and had him on the floor right on the side of them, and it would have been fine.
Well, that was my first thought. I actually posted that again in that conversation I had with his mom, that they could have just shifted over and had him with the kids, like maybe have like 4 or 5 kids on the floor and have the other kids on this, and have their levels. And it would have been fine. Or how about have the kids sit? And that's the
whole point of inclusion. They think just because they stick them in the same school that's inclusion.
Definitely not.
When you could put them in the same school, in the same classroom, in the same uniforms, but you still stuck him on the floor.
I think educationally they have to be, people have to be separated to the levels that they're able to learn. I think that's still something that needs to be done. When you're talking about not just disabled, but any kind of education system, you're going to have kids that perform at a different level than others, and you try to get them together so you can teach them all together, right? But that was not a situation for that.
No.
That was a social, right?
Something that everyone is pretty much on the same playing field.
Absolutely.
Those are the times in school that make everything else worth it.
Yeah.
Because I never got upset because I was in a different reading group than other kids. Maybe once or twice I was like, hey, I wanted to read that book and not this one. But it had nothing to do with, oh, they're smarter than me, or oh, they're not as smart as I am.
Right.
But when we all got to do the talent shows or our Christmas concerts, everybody was on the same playing field.
Right.
Everybody could do it. It wasn't, it's like, it makes me upset that nobody thought to put him on stage or to take the kids off the stage and put them on the floor.
Many of the kids that I work with have some level of learning disability or, something that would be diagnosed as a disability. And fortunately, I haven't seen many situations like I saw at Spencer Borden. I've seen schools definitely make those accommodations and celebrate those accommodations and let the other kids know, the kids that don't have to go through these things, understand why this is important. You know what I mean? And I've seen more of that than what happened at Spencer Borden really blew my mind.
Yeah, me too.
I thought we were so far past that. And it wasn't, and I don't think it was intentional, but it just was careless.
That's the whole point, and that's why Sedalia is pushing it.
Yeah.
Right there is the reason. Just because it didn't enter any of their brains
careless,
that this kid was on the floor.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So
Yeah.
they didn't think enough. They
Right.
thought enough about every other student, not only to have them on the stage, but to have them on the risers. And we're not stupid. When we were in kids, they go through a whole bunch to make sure the shorter kids are in the front, the taller kids are in the back,
It's discrimination.
and everybody is seen.
That's vertical.
Yeah.
That's verticalism.
Vertical discrimination.
That's verticalism,
New word.
Nikki. Do you
Check,
like
check.
that?
We'll put that in the book too.
Yes.
But they go through all of that. So they knew that he was on the floor.
Right.
There was it's not a mistake to see him on the floor. He was there the whole time. So somebody at that school should have said this isn't right and it should have been fixed. ASAP.
So when the pink slips came out to the teachers, okay?
Over 100 teachers.
Over 130, if I'm not mistaken, right? And not teachers, not just teachers, administrators. It was 130 in the school department, right? So
When they say teachers receive pink slips, I'm going to say if they want to call them all teachers, I'll call them all teachers too.
it wasn't all teachers, obviously, but when school department staff got pink slips, there was a lot of different opinions that came out that the mayor's not funding education. There was a lot of information about what about the children, what about their education. We've heard city council say we really want these children to have a great education. We want them to have a great education. So social media's effect, you brought this up, social media's effect on the public. I personally think that social media is a phenomenal way
It's
to communicate.
great. Yep.
I think it's phenomenal. I think
It
people
is.
say, oh, I don't deal with that because of negativity. They don't realize that if you are on social media with negative people, then you're going to have negativity.
and it's
If
your
you
choice.
interact with positive
Yeah.
individuals, it's the same exact thing. You can go to a bar and interact with a bunch of negative people. Social media had nothing to do with it. It was who you chose to interact with that provided the negativity, right? So it's not about social media being negative. I need everyone to realize that right now. What's going on right now with social media was rather, I don't know what the word is, crazy, whatever you want to call it, but a child went on social media, or a student
Thank you.
went on social media and was like, this is horrible, talking
What's
about
horrible?
the air conditioning situation at Durfee. Nikki's
You
acting
mean
right
the
now.
airless conditioning at Durfee?
The air unconditioning.
Yeah, there you go.
The air unconditioning at Durfee. That was a big problem, and there was like a sweltering heat effect going on in the school when the weather got better last week. So, and I remember being on the show. I remember hosting this podcast last week and talking about how great the weather was.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
All right, well, do you remember how
Well-
back to when you were in Durfee
Yeah.
and how bad it was?
I remember being in
How
Durfee and
warm
not
it
having.
was, even with the air conditioning?
I remember being in Durfee and it was smoking hot in Durfee. I mean, it was like, we were sweating like crazy in Durfee.
Tin hogs.
Yeah. Yes. Wow.
It's a fish.
You bring me back every time you come up with those old school Maple Gardens words. I like it. I love it. It's great. So anyway, this whole thing though, but this whole thing was disseminated on social media. I think about this is more of a conversation of social media's effect.
I loved this whole thing
Yes.
that happened.
Yes. Let's talk. Let's
I
go
love the whole
further
thing
into
that
this
happened.
social media thing. I'm gonna put the air conditioning thing to the side just for a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk about the ladies up in that like to sit at City Hall and clap and
Oh.
things like that, right? It
Them
was
thugs.
social media,
Them thugs
right? It was social media
that put
That-
the fear into city council.
that apparently put the fear in everybody that they needed to waste 5 cops' time and money to go to this council chambers. Social media has been very effective. You're seeing it now. I'm a younger city council candidate from some of these other people. I've used social media, and when you consider that I didn't take any funds,
Mhm.
social media was very effective, very, very effective, because you can communicate with people without needing to pay for hundreds of dollars worth of advertising or anything
Right.
like that, right? So you're starting to see other city councilors on a regular basis posting. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I find nothing wrong with that at all. Keep posting. And I think it's great. So I love it. I love the change that's coming. And people are starting to realize that there are lots and lots of tools out there to communicate with each other. And if you're communicating in a positive way, then go for it. But going back to this air conditioning thing, this was not what I would consider a positive communication in some cases. But they went out.
I think it was.
They were
fabulous.
like, we're not going to school. We're not going to school. We deserve to have some air conditioning in this place, or whatever it is that they said. I did not read it.
Oh,
I just know it was out there. What did it say?
So they were going to have a walkout.
Nice.
Okay, and the thing with the walkout, there were two sides to this. Okay, so we've got some people who are saying the kids are crazy for having a walkout.
I think it's a little crazy.
We've got really, and I'm on the other aspect. I'm on the other end of that.
Just because, like you said, we sat in these classrooms ourselves during
with
hot
the air
days.
conditioning on.
No, I'm saying I've had it without.
I don't ever remember having the air off.
All right.
The air was always on.
Well, we just got done saying how hot it was and how hot and crazy it was.
With the AC on. And that's, and I'm not even
Right,
kidding. I'm not kidding. Because
right,
when you're sitting in the seat in front of that damn window and the sun is beaming in, you're not going to tell me that it's not like a pressure cooker, because it sucks.
All right.
Okay. So then you have the other people who are siding with them. And then you have this small group of people that are kind of like in the center who kind of agree with them, but kind of don't. They're on this kick of, okay, the air conditioning is broke. Suck it up. You're wimps because you don't want to deal with the heat.
Right.
Okay. Going back to the walkout. The time that they had the walkout going, the time that the walkout was supposed to take place was right before school let out. So they were literally going to be out of their classes for maybe 5 minutes. So some people were saying, well, if you were going to do that, why didn't you go all out and spend all day outside of the class? Let me tell you, the student who came up with that is brilliant. Not only did they not have to walk out of the school because the city then came forward and said, we'll do half day classes, which is kind of silly. They could have found something else, maybe have the classes outside all day, but I guess nobody wants to hold classes outside.
I am going to just put a bookmark on what you just got done saying and wait for you to finish, and we're going to come right back to that. Keep going.
Because there's plenty of property at Turkey. Anyway.
Continue.
So, because they did have the after prom party.
Oh my goodness gracious!
AC.
Continue, because I really want to get into this little tiny piece of information. I gotta go.
So at any rate, they're posting on social media saying how hot it was in the school,
right?
And them talking about the 5-minute walkout got them some attention
on social media.
It actually got them a lot of attention because the newspaper ended up picking it up.
Yes.
They were talking about it on the radio. We're talking about it right now.
Yes.
Everybody's talking about it on the street. So
is there any other entity that we disseminate City Talk Fall River in any capacity at all, other than social media?
No.
Right. And we have been pretty much, would you say, the most successful Fall River podcast over the past 2 years?
I
would too. All right, keep going. Although I will shout out to David Mead and also obviously Mike D'Alvaro.
We are a little impartial, though.
We are biased on this. Let's just be real.
That's what I say. I love City Talk.
We've consistently been
for people who don't advertise their show, for people who just not too bad, man.
We've consistently been the most, the most, like we're here almost every week. Consistently, the BCC thing happened. We migrated right over here and just without skipping the beat.
Notch.
That's it.
Just like Emerald Lagasse.
Bam! I like that. Anyway, keep going because I want to talk about this education piece.
All right. I just wanted to give my props to them.
So now we go to half days, right? Nikki just came up with something. She's like, how come they didn't just modify the situation to where they can still have full days of school? Where are all the people? And I really I want a real discussion about this. I don't want oh my God, Trot, you're so negative. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to know legitimately, where are all the people that are concerned about the great education the children are missing out on? Didn't hear it. I listened and I didn't call in to WSAR all week after this air conditioning thing happened. I've been paying attention to city council comments, to mayor comments, to teacher comments, to every comment. I have not heard one person talk about, wow, it's a shame there's only half days because they're missing out on a great education.
No,
I haven't heard a single person say that.
Instead, they're saying it's great that the kids aren't going to be in the building.
That's what I hear.
with
That's
the
what I've
broken
been
AC.
hearing.
And then I'm sitting here thinking, we've got a budgeting issue.
Are we mad at
Hold on.
anyone for the air conditioning going down? Are we up in raw?
We've
Nothing.
got a budgeting issue.
Right.
So the kids are taking half days.
Right.
Do the teachers get half day pay?
I don't even know. I'm not even going to say yes or no to that because I have no idea.
And if they do get half day pay,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Where is their money that was budgeted gonna go?
So you feel as though they could
Well,
be
I
your
just
thing.
think Durfee's got a lot of property. There aren't that many days left to school.
I like those conspiracy theory wheels though that you have in your head. I like that.
There's not that many days of school.
Mhm.
They had the after prom last night where they were dancing, I'm sure, because at my after prom, we were dancing around, sweating our rear ends off.
Mhm.
So
Do you have air conditioning?
we did, but
Okay.
again, the air conditioning inside a building such as Durfee didn't really seem like there was any kind of air going through it at all anyway.
No.
So I'll just take it like that. But there is so much property outside of Durfee.
Mhm.
Why couldn't they do some of the classes outside? And I'm not saying everyone, but let's,
What about
even if they,
what about extra homework? What about
Yeah.
what about some classwork?
well, I can't,
Like,
I don't know if they get an extra homework or
Yeah.
any of that. All it read in the article, all it stated in the article was that
I want
they
to,
would go
but I
down
haven't.
days.
I'm not saying that they didn't do extra homework and all that. What I'm saying is, where's all this concern for the
Right.
children's education?
Nobody's talking about that.
That's
part.
my point. And I'm not saying this in a mocking way. This is fact, everybody. Fact. Not a single soul has been talking about how the kids are getting ripped off on their education right now. Not a single one of them. Definitely not the
MCAS
kids.
is over because
Right.
while MCAS was going on,
Right.
that whole building was filled.
Definitely not the kids. The kids definitely 100% are not complaining about missing out on a great
Of course
education, but they were when it was talking about funding, wasn't it?
Yes.
There
all
were
the
kids out there,
extracurricular stuff.
right?
You are correct.
There were
Good
kids out
point.
there, right? So, excuse me if I come off as rude about all this. I really
You're
do not.
rude. You're
No,
you're pointing it out.
I'm not trying to be, but I know I am coming off that way, and it is what it is. I'm not. I'll accept it. Yeah, I'll accept it. But I really want to know. I want you to look in the mirror. All the people that have shown this care for children's education when it comes to money being funded to the education department. Where are you now when
Thousands.
Right.
How many kids are at Durfee?
Right.
Usually 3,000 at
Right.
a time. So you figure.
where are you now? I want to know where all your concern is on the education of these children. Okay? Be fair. Really, really be honest with yourself. That's what that's all I want. If you can't do it, you can't do it. If you feel as though jumping on me is the solution to this, fine.
Maybe every student
Right.
had flex the last
I love flex.
2-3 classes.
I loved flex.
Classes.
I love flex. There was a kid by the name of he passed away. He ended up getting into a car accident on the highway where 195 is. His name was Brian Biancuso.
Wow.
Does that sound familiar to you?
You don't even
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know him? Oh, okay.
Wow, I can't even.
Yeah.
You just really
Brought it all the way back, huh?
Yeah, you threw me for a loop.
He was I wouldn't say he was like a great friend of mine, but he was a buddy of mine. We used to, hey, what's up? Hang out.
A lot of people who.
He was my boy in flex. Like that was my boy because he had a CD case, right? He had a CD case and I had a CD player. And we had a great relationship, but he would just give me the CDs and I would play them for myself. And it was great. But I just remember, like, when I think of flex, I always think of that guy. Is that weird how like certain things make you think of things?
I'm taking this as like God has given me some kind of a signal that I need that there's something that I might have to do. That just kind of yeah.
He was a good kid.
I didn't know him.
Yeah.
I knew at the time. See, because the thing, he has a very large group of friends who literally loved him with all of their heart and soul.
Yes.
And I knew some of his friends personally.
Right.
And during that time when he had passed away, I had the opportunity to meet. I met so many people who are still in my life today.
Yeah. Because of him?
Well,
because it brought everyone together.
Brian was in a car with another boy named Alan.
Okay.
Alan Kudo.
Oh, okay.
Alan is related to, my face is all right and everything.
It's all
Alan
fine.
is related to somebody who was very close to me.
Oh, I see.
So that's where
it's crazy, right?
Kind of just freaked me out a little bit.
We live in Fall River and we have so many circles that intertwine, you and I personally, that it's bound to happen.
Yeah. And that's what made me, when I said this earlier at the beginning of the show about her friends,
Yep.
the student that passed away, about her friends. That's how I was able to see so many young people. And that was back in 1998,
Yeah.
right before they graduated. So it was kind of similar. And I was able to see all of their friends,
Yeah.
Brian and Alan's friends, mourn their loss.
Yeah.
And it was such for me to see all that love. And,
Right.
and that's what made me say, my heart went out to everybody today.
Yep. So my bottom line on this whole thing with the air conditioning is this: those kids, they probably do deserve. There's probably justification to have those half days. But I wanted to see the response of all the people that were so mournful about the lack of education and this loss of education in this children's lives. I just wanted to see some of it, and I didn't see any of it. You only hear this and you only see this when money is involved. You don't see this when other situations occur. You don't see it. And I just want people to understand how ugly everything gets during budget season. How ugly things get during budget seasons. Friends throwing stones at each other, getting at each other's throats over politics and this, that, and the other. It's a really, really bad and volatile situation. And what's sad is now the pink slips were passed out to the DCM workers.
Wasn't that crazy?
Right.
Oh, my coffee. That was crazy, okay?
Yeah.
I called into Ray Mitchell's show on Thursday, like the last 7 minutes of the show. I called in because I'm so tired. I was tired of hearing everybody talk about the guys in the DCM, being laid off and all this. And I'm sitting here saying, we've had over 100 teachers get pink slips.
Right.
And here they're talking about these guys in DCM all the time who haven't even gotten pink slips.
Right.
So I called Thursday and I asked Ray straight up, hey, Ray,
does anybody have pink slips?
Has any employee within sanitation received pink slips as of today? He said, no. And then I hung up. I said, okay, thank you.
Wait, what did he say in response to that?
No,
Okay,
I hung up first. I said, okay, thank you. Once I hung up, he said, well, the mayor already said he was privatizing, so that's just as good as getting pink slips.
Which is not a true statement at all.
Fast forward to Friday, which is it was less than 24 hours later.
Yep.
I'm getting messages out of the wazoo saying the guys at the DCM were pink slip. I'm like, no, you guys are punking me, right? I'm like, somebody's definitely punking me.
That was good.
And they did. Apparently, they got their
So
pink
Nikki,
slips.
how does it feel to be the master of the universe? What is the pressure like exactly?
Here's the thing that I thought. There were two options. I thought, okay, so either the union heard me and they're like, okay, we need to make sure we get some pink slips. So get on that so we can make it look like we really are losing our jobs and not going to be offered working for the privatized company, all that stuff. And then the other side said, well, did Jazel forget to hand out pink slips?
Well, yeah, because the first part that you just said doesn't make sense to me for a
Right.
second, Nikki. Because how would the union be in charge of getting the pink slips out?
Well, not so much but we know who they have in their pockets.
Oh, okay, all right.
So if they had any,
I see. Okay.
which again, I'm sure it came down from the mayor's office or what have you. At least I'm taking the guess. But this is me on Friday morning when I'm getting all of these messages. I'm like, okay, so either the union got on it and said, okay, we need to flare up the fire, the smoke and mirrors, or Jazel seriously forgot to hand them their pink slips.
Yeah. I am putting up my Celtics cup just for the minute because I have my water. And yeah, we have new additions to the table now. We have new additions to the table now. There's that. And then what's the other one? That's Batman, my favorite
on
of all
YouTube,
time.
the videos Bat Dad.
Yep.
Hilarious.
Yeah, really funny. Bat Dad, like wicked funny on YouTube. Good.
His
And
wife's
then you have Catwoman in her little Catmobile. That was Derek. Derek brought those in. So we have that. I'm going back off camera
Derek
now.
brought these in. I was
You can
very
actually-
tempted to buy Iron Man the other day.
You can actually see my bathroom from this screen.
I know.
That's pretty crazy. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I should probably close all my doors before I put that on like that. So that was our fun moment for the minute, but I wanted to show off my Celtics mug, which I love to death.
It's fresh.
Yes. Perfect.
Soldiers in your cup.
Yes. Here's the so the DCM guys,
Yes.
they got their
Yeah, which by the way, getting the pink slips doesn't mean
Right.
a thing either.
well, I mean, it's gonna I do
mean, I should
believe
say
that
it
people are
doesn't
going to
mean
lose
it.
jobs here, Nikki. I mean, I do believe it's going to happen, and I
still
don't
think
want to
so,
see.
huh?
I personally don't want to see people. I don't think 25 people or whatever it is are going to lose their jobs, but I do think that people will lose jobs. My problem with it is they're going to point the finger at the mayor. They're going to point their finger at people like me and you.
Nah.
Right?
And I'm going to say, you know what? Go talk to Ken Pacheco, who was constantly complaining about the guys with 5 to 6 weeks vacation and the guys who are 50 to 55 and 60 years old who can't be busting up sidewalks.
I get that.
Things like
And
that.
I get that. And that's a valid one too. But when are people going to blame the system we're in? When are they going to blame the actual system? Why do they think that we're in this situation year after year after year, no matter what the department is? We see the same pattern every single time. People are held hostage. You know, your guilt is going to be put on the line, right? You're going to have your politicians coming out of nowhere saying, we need to fight for this, we need to fight for that.
Mm-hmm.
Or else you are going to lose public safety. Trash is going to be all over the city, which half of it already is anyway right now.
Kids aren't going to learn.
Yeah, your education. When are we going to figure out that the problem isn't just in one area, but the system itself?
Because the system isn't touchable. That's why people need somebody to blame.
They think it's not.
They don't realize that it is.
But there are people out there that have a vested interest in keeping things exactly the way it is.
Of course, and that's where we're starting to see a little bit of the shift.
Right.
I think right now it's kind of like a tug of war, and you know we're right at the center. Each one's pulling the other over just a little bit.
I talked about this a little bit on social media. Fall River, way before you and I were around, dedicated itself to filling its population with people who, you know, don't pay taxes, don't contribute to the system, right?
Has anybody looked into how they got all the workers for our mills in the city of Fall River at all? Anybody?
Not me.
Anybody?
Not me personally.
Any
no.
history buffs out there who know the answer to that? They went over to the Azores and brought all those people over.
Mm-hmm.
Low wage workers.
There you go.
Brought them all over.
Trump would be proud.
Come to the United States. We've got a lot of jobs and you make a lot of money. The American dream. White picket fence.
Fall River, years before you and I got involved, dedicated itself to filling this city with people who don't contribute to the tax base, right? They were getting funding for it when they were doing this, right? From wherever, federal, state, housing, whatever you want to call it. They were getting funding for this. Grants, right? Then we start seeing the fruits of this labor. We start seeing more population growth in the population that doesn't contribute to the tax base. Yet, the services still need to be provided.
Don't forget the increase in nonprofits.
Oh my goodness.
Who are exempt from paying property
taxes as well. So all this, and that's what I mean by populations. It doesn't include just one group of people. It doesn't just say welfare, nothing like that. We're talking about people who do not contribute to the tax base, but still use a lot of the services that taxes pay for. Fall River dedicated itself to this, but they still wanted to, we need to provide services. All the unions still needed to remain strong. They needed to keep the funding going in their departments, right? All this stuff needed to stay in place, but yet.
Well, don't forget, we had an awesome landfill that we were getting money from at the
time.
Right,
so some of these revenue sources were dying out, right?
Back then.
But again, when you bring up the landfill, didn't people know that was going to be shut down?
They showed it.
Right. So we knew, again, it dedicated itself to perpetually shooting itself in the foot.
Kicking the can.
Literally kicking the can down the road, right? So if the city continually kept on doing this, right, what did they expect to happen? What did all these people who had a vested interest in keeping things the way it is, what did they think was going to happen?
They didn't care because they felt they would be out long before any repercussions happened.
So now you're seeing you're seeing the fruits of all this, of all these seeds growing now. You're seeing all this come into fruition now. We do not have the tax base to keep up with the expenses of the city. We don't have it.
Well,
It's not Mayor Carrere's fault. It's not Trot Lee's fault. It may not even have been Flanagan's fault. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm blaming Flanagan.
But
He's listening too. So.
But my point is that the system is the problem. We're in a bad system. We need to modify things to make the system work. Because if we keep on dedicating to this cycle, it's going to break. And nobody wins.
Broke. I think it's
right.
already.
And nobody will win in this. Yeah. Nobody will come out on top in this.
It's like a bed, you know, when the old beds that used to have the wood slats underneath, and some of the wood slats would break, so the bed would kind of, it's like that.
So when I say 100, and I said this last week, when I feel $137 million is a lot of money, and it's and the school department is simply going to have to work within the budget it has, I'm evil, negative, and all that. Fine. Call me what you want. Problem is, I feel as though me saying that is helping more than hurting, because now it's a modification of what we're doing to try to work within the system we're in. That's all it is. I don't care about like taking money out of the school department. It's not in my, I don't care about that. It's not like I'm dead set on saying no to the school department, or I hate teachers, or I hate this, or I hate Meg Mayo Brown. I don't hate it. I don't know it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about that at all.
But when we don't see any kind of an effort to reduce any costs,
there you go.
That's a problem.
You go.
There's not even an effort.
There you go.
All we hear them say is, "Oh, it's going to increase next year."
Right.
But before we even get through the year we're in, we're hearing, well, you know it's going to increase next year.
Right.
Everything goes up.
Right.
Really? Gas is a hell of a lot cheaper now than it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
It's starting to creep up, though.
Well, it is starting to creep up, but that's the point. Right. If they don't go with the flow each time, if they're strictly going by the budget every time, no wonder we're in a hole.
It's gonna put us in a deeper hole.
They're going by the budget from the year before.
So,
which is okay, but it's not gonna be that.
So these workers that right now got pink slips, and these teachers and administrators that got pink slips, they're mad at Jazel? They're mad at Jazel.
That's what I'm guessing. He's only been in for 6 months, but I guess
they're mad at Jazel. They're mad at Sutter. Maybe they're mad at a couple of city councilors. They're not. What's really the problem here is that I don't know what it is, but they're not realizing, or they're not recognizing the system itself. It's flawed. Mm-hmm. Steve Kamara and a couple of other people, but mostly Steve Kamara, has emphasized we need to go with the federal government. We need to go with the state government. All that's going to do is expand the problem to a greater scale. Until the system is fixed, until the system actually works for you, not against you, you're not going, there's no bailout. There's no bailout at all. The system is to blame. Mm-hmm. The system is to blame. Now, if you want to blame Jazel, I mean, you want to point the finger at Jazel, or finger at Sutter or Flanagan or Correa or Carlton Viveris, or whoever the hell you want to do, right? Huh?
I said, make sure it's your middle one.
Yeah, right. But if you want to point your finger at them, fine, because they weren't a part of changing the system. You want to do that, fine. But the problem is, I'm not hearing an advocacy to change the system either. I'm not seeing union leaders coming out and say, wow, you know what? The taxpayers are really struggling. We should change what we want for our union in order to, to modify it so it works for everyone. We're not seeing that. Probably won't, right? Are we?
I didn't think that we were seeing that until I started doing more in researching on that.
Okay.
And they are speaking up about that
subject. What about the pension situation? Because I believe that's what the main crux of the difference between the calculations are for net school spending, was about one factors in pensions and one doesn't, right?
Because I think I think it's all just a matter of what they can charge toward net school spending.
Right.
So I think with what our city does is we try to take things that we pay for already.
Right.
And add them. You're looking like Denzel Washington today, just so you know. The way you just had your face, I don't know, it was like a Denzel. It was weird. I've never said that to you before, neither. Usually I'm like, when somebody's like, oh, Charles looks like Denzel. I'm like, really? But
we didn't land on Plymouth Rock.
Oh, I can't. But anyway, the way you were just looking at me, you really did. I not joking. You really did look like Denzel a little bit.
90s Denzel or like now Denzel?
No, older Denzel.
All right, good. Because I mean, wait,
No.
no, you're talking about ugly Denzel.
I'm not talking about now Denzel.
All right, good.
Years ago Denzel.
All right, I mean, come on, man. I still have an ego here.
A young Denzel. It was weird. I've never thought.
Let's move on.
Anyway,
let's move on from this. That's funny. Let's move on from it.
But that I think so.
The MCAS
opt out. That's what I wanted to talk
Go
about.
ahead,
That
go with it.
because for the first time ever, I opted my child out of MCAS testing.
Are you the first parent to do that?
At my daughter's school, I
At
am
Henry Lord?
indeed. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Congratulations.
And it was so wild.
Talk about it.
I sent someone had posted, can't remember who it was, it might have even been Sedalia. Somebody had posted about opting out. And I didn't realize that parents had the option to refuse. And I'm going to say refuse because that's actually how the school department likes to say it. And how even the Department of Secondary and Elementary Education also likes to use the word refusal as opposed to opting out.
Okay.
They will tell you, you cannot opt out. You can refuse, but you cannot opt out.
What's that mean?
Because when you're refusing to take it, think about the definition of refuse versus the definition of opting out.
You have the option.
Opting out
Right.
makes it seem like the school is giving you that option. When they use the word refusal, it makes other parents say, "Oh, you know,
You're
what are they?
that person.
What are you refusing to take?"
Right.
So that's all that's about. Because, and the reason that I make that so clear
Distinction, yeah.
is because I had sent a letter to my to the school with my daughter the day of MCAS. Now, what was crazy is she had already taken the first day of MCAS.
Mhm.
I had found the information out between the first part of the MCAS and the second. So when she walked in with the letter of refusal to say that she, you know, from mom saying she wasn't taking the test, caused a little bit of a panic in the school. I received a phone call later on that night
Well, that night?
from the principal who wasn't in the school that
They're
day.
calling you at night.
To be fair, the principal wasn't in. She was doing work
Were
outside of the
you
school.
near the waterfront? Were you near the waterfront when they made the phone call or not?
No.
Okay, just making sure. Keep going.
So, actually, I received the phone call and she did call me earlier. I was just out of practice, but anyway. So by the time I get on the phone with her, she did her best to convince me that it was the right thing to do to have my daughter take MCAS, that, you know, I wasn't opting out. There was no opt out. It's a refusal.
Right.
And this was pointed out to me. It's
Right.
a refusal. You
Right.
are refusing to allow your daughter to take the MCAS. You're not opting out. The state
Gotcha.
does not allow you to opt out, but you can refuse.
Gotcha.
So she asked why I didn't want my daughter to take the standardized test. And I explained to her that it's actually not the physical test that I have a problem with. It's everything that comes along with it. The homework, all their homework is revolving around the test. All their classwork revolves around the test. Even breakfast revolves around the test, because during MCAS times, and I've mentioned this before,
Yep.
they go all out with their breakfasts. They got, you know, all the big breakfasts and pancakes. Ooh, and the kids get excited. They make mass phone calls to parents to remind parents that,
Yep.
you know, it's so important for your child to take MCAS. And here's the thing. MCAS scores do absolutely nothing for the individual student. Nothing. So when I said that to the principal said, well, we like them to take the MCAS because it gives us the data that we need to let us know how your student is doing in class. So I said, but isn't that what her weekly tests are for and her daily classwork?
Right.
Doesn't that show the teacher what she's teaching? How does MCAS, which is a test, a standardized test, show her improvement?
Yes.
Oh, well, it gauges and it does this. Let me just say that at the end of the day, I basically got her to talk about the funding piece.
There you go.
Okay. And I laughed when she said we could ultimately lose funding. I chuckled and I didn't mean to be rude, but on the information packet that funny enough, the Massachusetts Teachers Association shares said that would be one of the first things that they would tell you would be that the school would lose funding or their state scores would go less.
Yeah.
Now their MCAS scores. Now here's the thing about the MCAS scores. That's precisely why I won't allow my daughter to take the test. It is ridiculous that an entire school, all the students in a school can be judged based on one student opting out of the test. How is that possible that one student opting out is going to hurt the school so much?
The system is the problem.
The system. So any parent can refuse, AKA opt their child out of taking the standardized testing outside of your 10th grade year. They do have to take it because it's a they won't get their diploma if they don't. That is in part of the school rules.
I'm not a crazy 70s weed smoking hipster here, right? But I'm sounding like one when I'm like, it's the system, man, right? Like,
get your tin hat.
Yeah, right. Like, but really be honest about it.
Yeah.
Really look in the mirror, really analyze all this stuff going on and tell me that there isn't something fundamentally wrong with the system.
Well, I told her, I said, and I really felt bad because I love my daughter's principal. She's a very nice woman. And I asked her, I said, am I the first parent who's opted out? And she said, yes. So I said, okay. I said, well, I'm going to send you all of the information that I read.
Right.
Just so she could get a better grasp on what parents are reading. You know, if the school department isn't going to give them the tools that they need to handle situations like this, I'll gladly help. I'll gladly send her what I'm looking at so she knows what other parents are possibly looking at and reading. So it was great. That ended the discussion. I emailed her the stuff. She said, thank you. And that was it. So my daughter will no longer be taking MCAS testing. And that was the other thing I said too. I said, you know, she's got 4 years left before she's even in 10th grade. They're talking about getting rid of MCAS. Why am I going to subject my kid to 4 more years of those tests if they're going to take them away? And actually, the state of Massachusetts, I can't think of the exact law, rule, how it's defined. They're trying to pass. It's being looked at right now, put a 3-year stop. So they won't even they'll do the testing, but they won't count any of the data.
Right.
It won't be, you have to do this, you have to do that. So, and another thing, like when around MCAS time, I think teachers get crazy too. I've noticed teachers get very stressed out. My daughter's teachers for sure have gotten stressed out around MCAS time.
Oh yeah.
I want to take that off their backs too. The test does nothing for our classroom. It does absolutely nothing for the student's individual education in the classroom. It doesn't.
Why do you hate kids, Nikki?
I hate them so much.
Why do you hate children and education?
I believe they're our future.
I actually, when you hear like, do you support the kids? Do you support education? Stuff like that. Like, to me, it's an absurd question to say, to ask somebody that, because they're going to frame it to what you're willing to give in monetary.
And I throw it right back to them. I ask them, you're telling me that an increase in funding is going to help. How is it going to help in the classroom?
I think that if I said this again, we've had these conversations, but I say it on social media a lot with people. Like, if taxpayers had a say into where their tax money actually went, I think that you would start to see who really wants to take money out of the classroom.
Oh, right. No kidding.
And away from the kids. I think that if taxpayers in general do not have a problem, I even think people who don't go to school or don't utilize the public schools, still, the majority of them probably still don't have a problem paying that tax to pay into it. I'm pretty sure of it. I'd be very surprised.
I haven't heard too many people complain about putting money toward education.
Right. I would be very surprised if people would be like, no, I don't even utilize the public schools. I don't want to pay it. I do think that people do have a problem with how it's allocated and where it's utilized. And all I'm saying is, if the taxpayer, the people who actually pay all these people and all these programs, and that's on a state and federal level too, by the way.
Absolutely.
The taxpayer pays for it all, everybody.
I love when people say, well, it's just the property. You know, if you don't own property, you don't pay taxes. Think again. Fall River gets a lot of state and federal welfare.
Grants.
Think again.
Grants are tax money too.
Where do they get that tax money from?
Taxpayers.
Payroll taxes?
Yes. Yes. So just want everyone to understand that it's all tax money. So if but the taxpayer doesn't have a say in where their tax money goes, right?
We do in our vote.
They elect people
Yeah,
with the
that's it.
trust.
Yeah.
But no, they don't not no. Did anyone elect Meg Mayo Brown?
No.
No.
But we elected the people
The school
who chose
committee.
her.
Right. Right. But I'm just saying there's a lot of people, there's a lot of and again, I don't like to always throw out the salaries, but there are a lot of well-paid individuals that were not elected that have a lot of power as to where their tax money goes. Right?
Absolutely.
So and when the you watch Steve Kamara spend 6.5 hours trying to get himself into a negotiating room with a union, right? Right? So the people who are in this negotiating room, there's only one person, and usually one person only, that's accountable to the people. That the people can say, "Wow, we don't like this. We're gonna vote against you next time." That's the mayor, right? That just made me laugh because I'm thinking about Steve Kamara getting involved in these negotiations as well. I just, so we're seeing this. We're seeing people, very highly, highly paid individuals, have a say in the allocation of your tax money, and they're not held accountable to the public in any capacity whatsoever. The public can't say, "Wow, that guy screwed the city over with this collective bargaining, and we can't even do anything about it." Can't do anything about it. Gonna have to get mad at the mayor, I guess, right? So knowing the rules of this game, let's look at the city council for a second. The 2016 city council. Doesn't it look as though there's a lot of union administration battling going on?
No. It doesn't look as if there is some. There
Right.
is.
So now looking at the landscape, a city councilor who is in support of a union and not in support of the mayor, what are they going to do?
You could clearly see
Right.
where the lines are drawn, and just
Right.
in the votes you can see.
I'm not saying every city councilor is playing this game. I think that there's, when you look at Pamela Bowe, when you look at Cliff Ponte, when you look at Steve Long, Joe Kamara, they're not playing games. They might not do everything you like, but they're not playing this silly game with Jay-Z.
I really love that you guys put Joe Kamara in that.
Well, he's not doing it. If he was, I would be all over it. But when he was, shut up because I said so with Mike DeOliveira, we didn't like Joe very much for that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying. But now he's actually performing well as a counselor. He's actually, hey, can you read what we're voting on? How many times has he done that? And I think now he's setting the example for other counselors, because I started to hear other counselors say, hey, can you read this? Yeah. So I think that's a good thing. And
well, it should be read. That's
Joe Kamara is not a perfect individual by any means at all, but at least he's going out there. I was about to say any means necessary because you got me acting like Denzel over here. But necessary. But he's at least doing what I believe an older and elder statesman councilor should be doing, is setting some example. Now, the little run-ins that he's having with Cabaceres,
stuff needs to stop.
You don't need it.
I'm not a Cabaceres fan.
No, of course not. No,
there's no need for that. No. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's unnecessary.
Unnecessary. It's not. It's not necessary at all. So I would like to move on a little bit from that, but I just want to say, with this system the way it is, right? With Jay-Z Correa at the helm right now, and he's the young mayor, and people still calling him a young mayor that lives in his parents' basement and all this crazy stuff, right?
So what if he did? Like, why does that bother people if somebody lived in their parents' basement?
I believe so far he has not put us on a road to systemic changes that we need, but he has rattled the cages a little bit. And you can see it by the activity of some of the union supporting city councilors that we have. The ones that are outright union supporters that have no problem saying they're union supporters have been the ones with their guns and pointed at Jay-Z Correa. They've been the ones acting like they don't have numbers and don't have figures. We had heard Linda Pereira yesterday on the news saying we don't have the figures.
I know, and you guys, when I heard that was said, I was like, really? That she's
I'm
a little
like,
insane.
Are we serious right now? Like, are we being serious right now?
Maybe they need to stop listening to WSAR. I think that's where they get their news
Wasn't
from.
the budget posted in the newspaper?
It's posted online.
It's everywhere, right?
fallrivermass.gov.
How is the vice
Or is it
president?
.org.
How is the vice president of the city council publicly saying we don't have the numbers when the budget was the budget was disseminated by the administration in the newspaper and everywhere else? Jason Caminiti,
Yeah, right.
he plugged in all the numbers
Yeah, I
and
didn't
put
even
together
read
his
his thing
cool website
Mhm.
that he did last year when he was running for city council. Come on. I really wish that we would move on from this. Like, it's tiresome.
That's where I
It's
say they're really
embarrassing.
It's super embarrassing when you have residents who are literally plugging the numbers in, putting them up, and they're still pretending they don't have the numbers.
Pretending is the problem.
And they are pretending.
It would be pathetic if she didn't have the figures. But it's more frustrating to know that she does have the figures.
You know, I want to ask when they're talking about figures, next time, could anybody just call in and ask them, what figures
What specific
are they
figures
talking
are you
about?
trying to
Yeah,
find?
like,
Yeah. Well, she
hook
did
me
say,
up, 'cause-
she said construction and debris.
Is what?
She said we don't know what's going on over there at
Is she
Lewison
dumb?
Street. We don't know what's going on at Lewison Street. Are we going to pick up construction and debris? There's laws against us doing it in the first place as a
It's
municipality.
not laws against us picking it up. There's laws against it going into a landfill.
Right.
We don't own a landfill. We don't own an incinerator.
So we don't.
And we're
have-
not a construction business.
Right.
So short of our own construction and demolition debris being taken care of, which, by the way, would be included, the disposal would be included in any contract we had with anybody who is going to be doing anything with construction and demolition debris.
I wish that you were the council vice president sometimes, Nikki, or at least the head of the sanitation department, so we can have somebody with some real honesty and integrity. And I don't want to say brains, and I don't want to say anybody's stupid or dumb, because I really truthfully don't think that people that are in there right now are dumb. I think they know how to play.
It.
I think they know how to play people very well. I think there's a very high level of intelligence to be able to play people into tricking them.
And maybe that's why
You know what I mean?
said, like, I
It takes
I
a high
can't.
level of intelligence to trick people into voting for you. 6,000 or so, 5,000
but some of
or
them
so.
are really good at it because they've been doing
Right.
it for a really long
Right.
time.
So I give them,
And
I don't call them stupid or dumb or anything like that. I believe that there is just a conniving, dishonest, disingenuousness in a lot of this that, and again, I'm not calling you names. I'm using facts. You're going to tell me you don't have figures? You're going to say you don't have figures?
You know what's crazy is, has she ever questioned construction and demolition debris before?
No, of course not.
And that's the whole thing. Now you're bringing it up.
Come on, man.
Now,
Come on.
and mind you, you're going to bring up construction and demolition debris. Let me guess, was the discussion about privatization?
You know, somebody said that we don't call people out on the show, or that we're soft, or
Oh, I don't care what anybody says.
I'm not here to be the Morton Downey Jr. of
What are
Fall
we
River
supposed to
podcast.
box?
Right. No, I'm talking about how we've gone soft and going after people and like calling people out and holding them accountable, right? So I'm just saying.
I don't know what that means. I'm
Right.
still calm, still doing the same thing I did
Right.
right from the beginning.
So my point of this is, like, if I ever became a colleague of some of these councils that I've been critical of, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, this one's this one, this one's that, this one's that. I'm really going to honestly try to find these answers. But when somebody's being disingenuous, straight up disingenuous, why can't I talk about that?
You know, when they say we're not calling people out, I don't understand that, because even with the budget, what did I say about the sanitation? I said that budget doesn't mean anything to me in regards
Right.
to sanitation, because all it says is sanitation.
Yeah.
It wasn't broken down the way that I expected it to be broken down.
Oh, so so we haven't really talked about the budget yet, but sanitation department.
Oh, it's definitely not.
Well,
broken
what
down the way
about
it
the other departments? Are they all broken down?
I've had a
Okay.
very busy week.
All right. So you've only looked at the sanitation department. one.
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to at least say to you, and I haven't looked at everything yet, but it looks to me as all the breakdowns of all the departments are very similar in style and the way that they're broken down. So I don't know
It's
if
not as specific
right.
as I know it could be. Like,
Right.
I just
Were
there is-
other budgets more specific in the breakdowns?
just because I've looked so much into sanitation
Uh-huh.
and because sanitation has been such a big topic
Right.
as far as user fees
Yep.
go and
Yep.
all of that. So to me, that needs a little more attention. When
For the 2006 FY17.
yes,
Right.
for FY17.
All right, but FY16 and below, they were more detailed in that department.
No, but
Oh.
Diesel wasn't pulling up.
Okay.
He wasn't the one who was putting forth the budget. He is,
Right.
and actually, I will give him a little bit of credit. It's a lot cleaner. The way the budget was written, it's a lot
the
cleaner.
situation looked pretty good. It had explanations. I remember, I think Bob Correa's budgets had
A
explanations.
budget message.
Right, before each, before each one. I noticed that, Jazel Correa did that as well. When you said that you were expecting more detail or that you disappointed that there wasn't more detail, I was under the impression that other budgets had more detail, but
No.
that's not the case. Okay, all right.
For me, because I think Mayor Correa,
Yep.
Jazel, he knows a lot of what needs to happen.
The details, right.
So that's where I say my issue with him is more personal. I don't need to
You hear that, Jazel?
call
It's
him
personal.
Well, because I felt like he was going to come forward and say this X, Y, and Z. And although some things he has, I'm still angry about the pretend fines going out for non-compliance.
Of course.
I really don't like the way that the sanitation budget was broken down. There is way too many. Like on the revenue side, I didn't see any revenue coming in from the Florida Public Housing Authority for the recycling that we pick up.
Right.
So if it's there, then I want to see that,
Right.
because that's one of the questions we
Yes.
had. When we're questioning our budget and why is sanitation so expensive,
Mhm.
I want to be shown why it's so expensive.
Nikki, when it comes to sanitation with the school department, has there been any line items for how much they budget for their disposal of recycling and solid
Not to
waste?
my knowledge.
Is there any documentation at all for the amount of tonnage that they amass for recycling and solid waste?
No.
Okay.
No, because
So-
it's not separated.
So Councilor Cabaceres had a moment of normal tone, asking a serious question without trying to grandstand
He
for a
did
minute.
good at the beginning of the